Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Demon Tech Digital. I am Neo. In this particular video, I want to talk about Razer Synapse 3 because although it is a wonderful program and incredibly powerful in its ability for you to customize your lighting setup, anything from your Razer peripherals all the way to things like your now with the ARGB controller, your fans, and like my CPU fan, light strips, things of that nature. There's a lot of things you can do with Synapse 3, but there's a few issues that I've got, and hopefully this does not come off as me bashing it, because that's not my intention at all. I'm just illustrating a few key points here that I think may help people, but we'll see what happens, okay? So the first thing I want to talk about here, I'm going to go ahead and pull up a image that I worked on earlier, and this is me reworking the user interface, but this is only a static image. This is just representative of some of the things that I would like to see. Before I talk about that, I want to mention the graphics engine, or if it doesn't have one, maybe possibly implementing one. Because when you have as many devices put into Synapse 3 as I do, it really, really lags bad. Like to the point to where if I try to move color stops or rename any kind of a lighting effect, or even lighting or renaming a group, will cause it to lag, and the lag usually lasts between a minute and a half to anywhere upwards of 5, not a minute and a half, a second and a half, I'm sorry, all the way up to like 10 seconds. And that's when you're spending hours in this program, you quickly realize that a lot of it is because of that. So one of the things that I would like to see, if you notice down here on the bottom of the screen, right above the save button in the image, it says pause selected and pause all. That would pertain specifically to the animations that represent what you're doing in the program. Now, it would just be helpful if we at least had a pause all. Now, we can turn these off, right? But in theory, they're still kind of active in the, behind the scenes or what have you. This would just alleviate having to go in here and switch all this stuff up. It would be one button, you just hit pause all or pause selected. And all it does is pause the animations, because I believe that the animations are a huge culprit to the lag. Because there's, like I said, there's a lot of stuff going on, and all these things are animated while you're working, which is cool and everything, but you want to be able to disable it. That being said, it's just one of those minor gripes. I mean, I'm sure it'll get worked out in the end. It's still in beta. It's been in beta for a very long time. It's just how it is. You keep implementing new things and things are going to happen. I noticed that the lag actually started happening most when I connected my ARGB controller. So I don't know whether it's just a byproduct of that, or it's a byproduct of having so many devices attached to Synapse. They are wanting to, they've expressed that they want to have an entire lighting ecosystem at Synapse's disposal. But if you're running into these huge lagging issues, then that could actually be a potential downside depending on who's using it. Now, my system is nothing to necessarily sneeze at. I've got a Ryzen 7 2700. I've got a GTX 1660 in here. I've got 16 gigs of, I think it's DDR4, whatever it is, RAM, 33 megahertz, Corsair Vengeance. It's not a bad PC by any stretch. It can handle things like Borderlands 3, no problem. It can handle Doom Eternal, no problem. But yet, for some reason, it lags in things like this in particular, Synapse 3. So that I would like to see addressed. But moving from that, the ability to copy and paste lighting effects across different profiles. It's kind of similar to the clipboard function in Windows, so that you could essentially come into any of these, whether it be a group or a folder or what have you, or an individual lighting effect, and just right click it, and maybe it would be in that that small pop-up menu that you have, because usually you can either rename or delete, or there's a few things that you can do, but one of the things you can't do is copy it and then import it, just that particular effect or whatever you've copied, into a new profile. That would be really cool. I tested it out just to see if maybe Windows would grab it, because in some cases you can do that. And it wasn't the case in Synapse 3, didn't allow it. But that would open up a lot of doors for people, especially people who maybe are not initiated enough to do their own profile. Maybe they go and visit Unreal Hero, who develops some really, really crazy and really nice profiles for keyboards. And say, for instance, he did one for, like, say, the base station and maybe the Firefly. So you got three things. Maybe you like what he did with the keyboard, but not so much the base station. Well, you could delete that, or you could copy something from one of his other profiles and use that instead. It would just be really cool. And you could kind of get a mix and match of different profiles in one, and you could save that as your default, or maybe for a game or something like that. Now, of course, naturally, you have to worry about things like, what's it called? Plagiarism, where people will actually just basically compile a bunch of them together and then save them, export them, and then put them on Razer site or whatever, or put them wherever, and then claiming that they're theirs. I personally think as long as they give credit where credit's due, it's not that big of a deal. But you're never going to get rid of that. It's just never going to go away. People will always do that because they want to feel special, right? It's just how it goes. So that would be, at any rate, that would be kind of cool to see. Now we're going to get into some of the graphical edits that I did to the image, which is like adding a measurement box with tick lines for precision, manual color stop placement. Like up here, you'll notice that I've got from 0 to 100 in 25, 50, 75, 100. So 25, there's increments here. And then there's 5% in between each. So all that would be is just a representation of where it would be. But up here in this box, you would see the value would actually change as you move the slider. So that way there you could, in theory, like say for instance, I put it to 17, right? Well, then I could just subtract 17 from 100, type that number in here, hit apply or enter, what have you, and it would actually attach. It would I can't think of the word. It would jump to where it was supposed to be and stay there. And it would be able to, it would allow for precision, a little bit more precision, because you have to kind of guess as it is. It's like, oh, is that up? So it could be just slightly off. You know, you get the point. If one side is off, because see, the way it works is these colors, the program scrolls across it. When it reads it from left to right, and it'll kind of cycle through the colors, and so it gets to the end and stops, and then does it again and stops, and then does it again and stops. And that's how it reads through that particular pattern. Well, knowing that, if you say had a really, really tight spot on each side and it needed to be equidistant, it's actually pretty difficult to achieve that. You have to really work at it, and there's a lot of guesswork. And if you're not familiar with doing things like that, especially like in Adobe and stuff, then it's gonna drive you crazy. But by manually typing in the input, you can get a lot more precise. So it would help a great deal. Number 4 on the list is auto selection of manually selected light zones when clicking on effect. Right. So basically, when you click back and forth between two effects, the colors or the light zones that are being utilized by the effect are like a dark green. They have a dark green outline, but selected colors have a bright green outline, kind of like how you see the pause selected and save buttons down here. It's kind of what it looks like, only in outline form. So what happens is every time you go to a new layer effect, you have to reselect everything manually. Or if you're using all of them, you just select them all again, right? Well, that when you're getting into really fine detail, you don't want to have to do that. So what this would do is when you click whatever layer effect that you want to be on, it's automatically highlighted and ready to be edited. You don't have to manually select anything. It's just already done for you. That way there, if you don't want those selected, you can click away from it in an empty space on the canvas. Or if you need to, you can just select further from that. So like these gray pieces in the keyboard, if I wanted to just grab those, and the 2 and 3 on either side are already selected, then I just have to grab that. And that's all I have to do. I don't have to mess around with, oh crap. Because there's some cases where you'll need a custom color, right? You already have it. So even if it's not in your custom colors palette, you can simply double click in the hex, get the number, and then paste it into the other effect. Well, when you're doing that between different layer effects, it gets kind of a pain in the butt to have to reselect everything every time. So it's a bummer, but I mean, it is what it is, right? So it's just something that I think that would help, because it would just eliminate the little hems and haws of productivity. And then the last one is the ability to store color patterns in the pre-built patterns bin. So basically what that means is down here in your color swatches, you can actually have custom colors. These are all custom. These 4 are custom colors. These up tops that you see are representative of RGB, right? So those kind of have to be there if you want any decent effects. But they allow you to have up to 4 custom colors. These 2 orange are custom colors. I believe the red and the dark blue are as well. So I could easily just swap between these 2, right? But when it comes to color patterns, unless you have something that's already selected with the color pattern being utilized, it won't, up here when you click on this color pattern, it'll stop right here at this green one because that's one of the defaults. This one in a black outline is the custom one that I've been working on. So from the green over to the what I call the RGB puke, I got that from Jay's 2 cents, by the way. But you've got essentially 5 patterns, right? And then the 6th one is your custom. Why not have anywhere from 3 to 5 of your customs? And then you can just add it right here. So you input it and then you click that and it puts it into its own little area where you can select it. That would be so much easier than having to recreate the same effect over and over again. Because like I said, even if you like say duplicate it, it won't duplicate the pattern. It'll duplicate the effect, but not the pattern. So if I have it, like if I grab left orange wave, right, and then I duplicate it, and then I say I do the other side for the right, if I don't actually grab any of the keys or light zones that are using the pattern that I want, it won't come up in the selected palette or pattern up here. So being able to save some would really help out a lot. And that's basically all I've got. I'm sure that there's other stuff that would be really nice to have, maybe like a cut and a paste function, like I said before, but that would be more for like in the actual profile itself. You can duplicate those, so that's kind of the same thing. But you know, these are just things to make productivity a lot more user friendly, for lack of a better term. Because a lot of times, like, I've wanted to spend a lot of time, and I think the one that bothers me the most is the lag. I could deal with everything else if it wasn't so laggy, because there's been plenty of times I've wanted to make a new profile, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I gotta sit here for a half an hour and wait for Razer to figure out what it's doing. And, you know, it's just kind of a bummer. It's not a deal breaker by any means, but it's just one of those things where I think I would use it a lot more if that lag was at least removed. So I don't know, maybe they'll fix it in the future. This is kind of an open love letter to the Synapse developers, because they make an incredible program. It's just, it needs a little bit of work, just a little tiny bit of help. And the fact that I completely understand how difficult it is to program and how difficult it is to make these things, I know it's not easy. That's why, you know, I'm not necessarily complaining. I'm just using this as, hey, maybe it'll give them some good ideas that maybe they can implement. Anyways, that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. That's really all I got. Let me know what you think. Is there anything that you would like to see Razer implement into Synapse 3 to make it more user-friendly, or just to make it even just that much more fun? I mean, barring new effects and stuff like that. I'm sure they're working on new effects as we speak. but I think the core programming is there. It just needs a little bit of spit and polish. But that's it. Y'all take care, stay safe. I'll see you on the flip side. Peace.